Both the recovery of global economy and commodity prices present an opportunity for the mining industry to bounce back by 2021. The extent of global economic recovery depends on the speed at which the pandemic is contained and the economic interventions to be deployed. Our view is that this projected recovery is possible and South Africa must be ready to embrace opportunities it presents. For us to realize the benefit of this recovery, we must be deliberate about several actions to ensure the sector not only bounces back, but it bounces forward and reaches greater levels. And the following actions are key. Now, before I get to them, what we should be doing, I must remind you that during COVID, we insisted on reopening mining earlier than many sectors. One, we allowed collieries to operate during level 5, and we opened all open cast in level 4 and opened all mining in level 3. Now, and that's why the National Treasury is talking of these green offshoots, because we wanted it to stabilize early and be a base for growth. And many, somebody said to me, you're opening mining early and the blood of mine workers will be in your hands. And I told this comrade of mine, I said, no, I agree with you, this blood will be in my hands, but the worst blood will be hiding the impact of COVID-19 on miners by not testing them, hiding them all the time. But if we test them and understand the extent of the problem, we will be better to deal, in a better position to deal with the challenges facing the industry. Now, the first thing that we think should be done is to attract global exploration expenditure. As I said, exploration is the lifeblood of mining and is central to propelling future growth. The availability of high resolution, good quality, and world-class geoscience information is key to unlocking economic recovery. I will continue to support CGS with the mapping program in order to increase quality of the country's geodata, which has profound impact on investment decisions. Only 8% of country's landscape has been mapped at required scale of 1 to 50,000. The rest of it is not appropriately intensively mapped. We have asked the Council for Geoscience to go beyond just mapping and begin to drill to determine the quantity and the quality of deposits, so that when investors come, we can partner with them and have value for our products, instead of just giving them the exploit and they give us only royalties, which are low. Research and development. A considerable amount of investment is required to run research and development program with the industry. This may require that government offer some form of incentive to companies to invest in industry-related research and development. The initial focus of research and development program may be on efficient gold extraction and cost-saving mining equipment and systems. Innovation and technology advancement is key to ensuring efficient and effective ways to propel the industry into upward trajectory. So research and development has dropped in the industry. It used to be a priority. We're trying to say it must be a priority again, skills development. It is an open secret that mining sector is losing jobs, both because of the mechanization as well as during crises such as commodity slumps and other commodity-related impacts. The country needs to plan for this labor dynamics to avoid its impact in the economy. It is therefore important to develop and implement skills development programs aligned with diversified economic activities to absorb the labor displaced by these sudden events. In order to address skills gap during mechanization, local labor must be trained on skills that match the industry needs. This will make the local labor force ready to embrace the new technology and provide services required by the sector. I would encourage you to visit 2 mining entities if you want to see the progress that we're starting to make there. Go to the Northern Cape and go and see Vedanta operations, and you can go and see Exaro operations, all those, and others are following. But those will show you the impact of proper reskilling of the workforce. There is no gainsaying that mining is one of the economy's key tradable sectors with the potential for meaningful contribution to economic growth, job creation, and transformation. For this to be realized, investments into greenfield projects is crucial. A number of large mining houses in South Africa operate mines which are nearing the end of their lives. And this fact is itself a much needed investment into new projects presents a great opportunity for junior miners and explore the green fields. Life of a mine, life of a mine tells you that mining by its nature is a depleting industry. When you take a ton of gold out of the ground, that ton of gold doesn't return. And therefore, it is 1 ton less of gold. We become number one, we're now number 5 gold producer in the world because we've been mining gold for a number of years. Our available geoscience information at a requisite scale is already identifying highly prospective areas for immediate investment in exploration and development. This includes the re-evaluating the Vins Basin mineral system, which hosts gold deposits. The geology shows evidence of significant extension of gold-bearing rocks. As you may know, South Africa has produced more than a third of gold on surface and was number 1 producer until about a decade ago. These prospects bring hope that gold mining in South Africa may be extended for several decades ahead, contributing to economic growth and employment creation, among others. On mineral supportive new industries include renewable energy, that is the better minerals. The South African geology remains untapped, notwithstanding the substantial presence of rare earth elements bearing rocks that we're blessed with. There was no outcrop of lithium bearing pegmatites in the Northern Cape that span both South Africa and neighboring Namibia. A lion's share of these rocks is located in South Africa, but no exploration has yet taken place while Namibia's side is already at the advanced stage of exploration. To date, the geological mapping program has confirmed a large surface extent of the rock than previously contemplated, from originally 17,000 square meters to marginally below 30,000 square meters now. An increasing appetite in these minerals presents new opportunities for exploration and mining investment to fulfill emerging demand for such minerals. In addition, there are known pegmatites in KZN and other areas, which are yet to be assessed for the extent to which they are materialized. Preliminary assessment indicates prospects of iron oxide copper gold type mineralization in the Northern Cape, which arises from renewed investment in geoscience. It has been established that nations that invest in geoscience on a constant basis are correlatively attracting larger share of exploration budget. Case studies is Ghana, Namibia, Latin America, Canada, Australia, and USA. Collaborate that for every rand invested by the state in geoscience, there is an equivalent of 5 rand attracted in exploration activity from the private sector in the state, which returns 120 in about 20 years. If there was even an ever time for South Africa to refocus its attention to exploration, that time is now. The last area I want to put on the table is that area of the need for systematic approach in training and developing artisanal and small-scale mining. This will ensure that sterilized deposits are exploited, ensure that small-scale miners, divers, and pickers are given economic opportunities, and not driven into being thugs. And I think this outlines what I think should be done. And the rest of what do we do for transformation, I will deal with that in questions. Thanks very much.
JP.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Comrade Gwede. Much appreciated indeed. Comrades, there's still the appeal that if your video is on or you're not muted, if you could please assist us by muting yourself. Please don't give us the uncomfortable role of having to remove you. We will take a couple of hands. I see there's a few more coming. Remember, this is a dialogue, so the objective isn't necessarily always to pose a question, but you could also express your own view just to in the spirit of enriching the dialogue at this moment. So I'm going to take a few hands, comrades, and also, of course, we do encourage you in the chat groups to continue the discussion there, and also those who are on Facebook, if the interaction can also happen at that level. So, Comrade Mandla Madwara, I'm going to take you first. You're on the floor. Mandla Mandwara. Mandla Mandwara, going once, going twice. Okay. Joe Mavuso then. Comrade Joe. Joe Mavuso. Comrades, can you hear me? Or am I myself not audible? Thinking the problem is someone else on the other side. Comrade Brian, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So if Comrade Brian can hear me, everybody else should be able to. Comrade Joe Mavuso, you had your hand up and I tried to get you unmuted. You'll have to come later, Comrade Joe. Sitribo Mfuywa. Oh, comrades.
Comrade, there's a message that please unmute us.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And we can't unmute ourselves.
Yeah, I don't have everybody muted here. Let me try. Hendrick Makaneta. Comrade Hendrick, is it not unmuting you either?
Thank you very much indeed, Comrade JP Low.
Now you have my confirmation that everybody should be able to get unmuted. Okay, you're on the floor, Lee.
And let me take this opportunity to thank Comrade Gwede Mantashe for such an insightful presentation. I am following the discussions, and one of the questions that must be answered is how far are we with the state mining? And I think that this is a question that arises from some of the inputs that were made earlier. I may not be up to date in as far as the issues of mining are concerned. I've grappled with I'm glad that Comrade Gwede was able to also give us the historic evolution of the mining sector, starting with the copper mine, the first copper mine, and of course, the manner in which in the 70s, the mining sector alone was able to contribute almost 21% to the GDP. But equally, the question of reconstruction and the growing economy, the importance of that. But the key question that I still want to be answered is how far are we with the state mining? Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, Comrade Jonas Boshomane. Comrade Jonas Boshomane is on the floor.
JP, we can't hear you.
Hello? Hello?
Jonas, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much.
Jonas Boshomane.
Yes,
Okay, Jonas Boshomane.
yes, I'm
Yes.
on the platform.
Yes,
Hello?
Proceed, Jonas.
Yes, I'm just saying I want to move from the premise of the 2012 Mangaung resolution on the radical economic transformation. And our expectation is that every sector need to respond to this resolution.
Yes, continue.
And the state,
Yes, you're unmuted. Comrade Jonas, please.
the state also with its capacity to intervene, especially post-COVID, and also go radical. Well, I want to pose a few issues. I mean in Kangala region, where mining is at the heart of our economic spin-off. But the issue of social labor plans in relation to mines benefiting the local community is a very serious matter that needs to be attended to. The issue of cooperatives and SMMEs, I need to hear the minister indicating how many are they able to lift into participation in the mining sector, including infrastructure development. Kangala has close to 100 mines, but in terms of infrastructure, the roads are very pathetic. The issue of procurement, the 30% local vis-a-vis, I want to hear about the 70% procurement. How do they interpret 30% vis-a-vis the 70%? Because procurement in its totality is 100%. There's also the challenge of forums, which are mushrooming at each and every corner. How is the department managing this issue in relation to the role that must be played by local economic forums from the municipalities? Yeah, there's also, I think, post-COVID, the issue of loss of jobs from the mining sector. And I heard the minister when he spoke about diversification and skills development. But in the intervening and in the immediate period, what is the plan going forward? Thank you very much.
Right, Comrade Leah, you are next, my leader. Leah Khoza.
Thank you, Comrade JP. Greetings to the comrade and greetings to the national chair. It is definitely quite an interesting conversation that we have today. Of course, my name is Leah Khoza, Mabuza, Regional Secretary in Kangala, which Comrade Boshomane has just touched some of the matters that were concerned about the issue of the mining, now that we're living in the mining environment in Kangala and some of the part of Mpumalanga. We would want to understand, because the minister is emphasizing the fact that the mining lifespan is almost coming into an end. And we are worried of the mining beneficiation, if that process has been taken place and what progress is in that regard. Because more often when a lifespan of a mine comes to an end, you see more poverty to the society and the community living around those mines, which is part of the concern that the ANC must be worried about. Whether these mines, through their lifespan, have been managing to give back to the society so that you alleviate the triple challenges that the ANC has always been advocating for. That is my first question. The second question to the national chair is the fact that, yes, indeed, mining industry in South Africa has been actively, and now that is depreciating, going down. The progress made in terms of women development and women empowerment in that sector, what is the progress? Because what we understand, when you want to approach an economic activity as a mine, the officials in the mines are shrewd. The DMR on its own, you will never get a license on a lay table where you will put the application and also get into the whole process because of all these red tapes that are happening in the DMR. And now that these mining sectors are coming to an end, the question is that how are we going to approach ourselves with our society, particularly in the mining towns where minings are operating, while we have seen an increase in poverty, which would want the minister, as the national chair in the ANC, assist communities in ensuring that even if these mining sector are coming to an end, there should be at least a beneficiation that is taking place. And I haven't yet heard clear about the greenfield operation that has now evolved in the mining sector, which would definitely wish to hear more about that, Comrade Chair, so that we are being assisted in putting our activities in that sector now that we are moving into the new normal on the mining industry. Thank you very much, Comrade JP.
Sure, Comrade Leah. Lebam Gluli.
Thank you, Comrade Jempi, and thank you to the National Chair for the presentation. However, my question will be very much simple. One would be, what systems do we have in place? You know, mostly in mining, we'll squatter in one place where we share the kitchen and we share the bathroom. So if one tests positive within that hostel that we stay, what system are in place? Number two will be the transportation. You know that we use one taxi, 5 or 10 of us getting transported to the mine. And if one also tests positive within that taxi, what will be the system in place? And the other one will be on the jobs outside the mines, like your transportations that transport manganese, iron ore, as you know, Comrade JP. How do we bring in our black people? You know, at open cast mine, you will find that a white person that was a manager at ShopRite is now the mine manager because he just did his blasting certificate and now he can qualify to become a mine manager. How do we bring our black people into that? And those blasting stuff that they use, where do black people get them to provide to mines so that when blasting happens, we get into that part of the economy? That will be my few questions to the National Chair, Comrade JP. Thank you.
Okay, now just on the chat group, Kungile Hobongwane is saying, Comrade Gwede, given uncertainty around the governance of land issue, where a group of elite historically have a so-called claim of ownership in some large hectares of land, be it farming, estate, mining land, and so on, while our government is still struggling to implement the land nationalization policy. Now, what would the government do if, for example, a farmland owner discovers mineral deposit in his so-called land? In this way, would you claim that, so I lost the question here a little bit, but I remember the question, I think, to do, now would the government, sorry, comrades, I just lost the question here. Okay, let me just start it from the beginning again to read it proper. Given uncertainty around the governance of land issue, where a group of elite historically have a so-called claim of ownership in some large hectares of land, be it farming, estate, mining land, and so on, while our government is still struggling to implement the land nationalization policy. Now, what would the government do if, for example, a farmland owner discovers mineral deposits in his so-called land? In this way, would you claim that government fully record the correct mineral data amount generated every year in South Africa? Then Sibongile Kele says, what is the department's view on the purifying of the acid water in the mining and its reuse to address the water shortage? I suppose the question means and for the reuse of water. I'm not too sure, Comrade Gwede. I'm sure you can even see the question there yourself. You'll see if it makes sense in any way. Stanley Obakeng Sidiko is saying, is this not the time to give access to South Africans to have mining rights? I think that South Africans can give an opportunity to decrease unemployment. I think these people must be given an opportunity as they have experience. Now, Comrade Hope Papo, The state must remain the custodian of mineral rights and improve on the management for the benefit of the majority of citizens. Not really a question, but an issue you can comment to, Comrade Gwede, if you want. Now, Comrades Simpiwe, Peter, Nets, Spribo, Mandla, Boneni, I do see your hands. Musawenkosi, I see all your hands, comrades, will come to you as well in the next round. Comrade Gwede?
Okay. How far are we with the state mining company? The most asked question since I came to Mineral Resources. I'm on my third year there now. I found what is called African Exploration, which is a mining company for the state existing. Then I went to it. One of the things that shocked me first, because when you're in Tuli House, you get excited that there's a mining company belonging to the state. Now, when you go to the department, you come face to face with reality. We discovered that that mining company, one, had no mining experience or know-how at all. You couldn't find a mining engineer or a geologist in that mining company. And went further deep and discovered that it had only one operation and in partnership with other people in two. So the first thing we had to do, which we're busy with, was to structure it as a mining company. We have finished the governance correction where we have brought in people with mining experiences to run it. We are recruiting a CEO now with mining background. We have a COO, we've got a chairperson, we have a board. We have quite a number of areas where the mining company can have access to mining licenses and grow. We're hoping that it is going to grow now instead of being used as access to cash. It used to rent offices in waterfalls, 20 million rand per annum. We've taken them out of that. They are now in the offices of the Central Energy Fund. I hope that by the end of the year, we'll be able to report that we're having a proper mining company. It has more mining licenses to run. My report to you is that up to then, we didn't have a mining company. We had a name. And we're now beginning to build it and grow it, and it is going to grow. We are quite aggressive in that program. We had to go and look for a young engineer who have been in mining for some time to chair the board. And he is doing very well. And in a year's time, I think we can report an operational state mining company, not a cash flush for a few. That is the first one. Somebody asked me that we resolved to have radical economic transformation and state must intervene. Now, you see, I have a running battle with somebody on the radical economic transformation. And the fight we're having is simply with this comrade of mine. He wanted me to be a member of the radical economic transformation. I said, no, I'm not a member of RET, I'm a member of the ANC. RET is the ANC policy. That distinction is very important to understand, because if we become members of RET, it means there will be nobody left in the ANC. We must be members of the ANC. Social labor plan. I want to advise the ANC to do this in a more focused way. Try to get details of how the social labor plans work. Where have they done well, where they have failed, so that when they engage us on social labor plans, they can actually tell us, you know, I was in Rustenburg one day where we handed over 4,000 hectares of land to a mining project, to a housing project of the municipality as part of the social labor plan. In the same area, we have a social labor plan which has developed a township in town for miners. And that township for miners is what is called living out allowance converted into a bond for housing where it is paid directly to the bank and people begin to get houses for it. And therefore, social labor plan is not on a straight line. It works very well in some areas. It has a problem in other areas. And is one of the outcomes of the yes, coming out of the mining charter. Now, it's the product of the mining charter. It's doing relatively well, but there are areas where it doesn't do well. I can also tell you that the social labor plan does well when the prices are good because the money is available and many things are done. The price of gold is good now. Gold mining companies are going to do relatively well. Platinum is doing well. They're going to do well. Let me go to the procurement. How do we 30% in the mining charter is 30% domestic procurement. Now that domestic procurement actually talks to a number of things. Domestic is South Africa because it includes heavy machinery. Instead of using machinery that is imported, we try to get machinery that is developed in South Africa. That's why there are few companies that are at that level at this point in time. But a number of companies are beginning to develop partnership with local companies to develop products that can be used in the mining industry. And therefore that 30% is domestic. It's actually no longer 30% now. We've pushed it to 51%. That's why the mining industry is complaining that that is heavy to commit now. It's no longer 30, it's 51% domestic. Loss of jobs in the industry. Actually, post-COVID, we didn't see massive job losses in the mining industry. And the reason for that is COVID lockdown, work closely with the industry to say how the production, few workers from the region have not returned the money. I was with the whole weekend last week in Witbank. You know. He didn't ask me this difficult question. Now he comes here, he asked me a difficult question. Mining lifespan coming to an end. Coming to an end of a life is not, you're not going to see the death of the Witbank coalfields in one day, Comrade Mayor. You will see a mine X closed, then another mine closed, because they were not opened on the same day. Now, beneficiation and poverty being the benefit left behind. I can tell you that we are running the mining industry now. We're inheriting even the sins of the old order, where mines were not having any responsibility to develop communities. Now we've introduced a system where we make it obligatory to develop communities where they are operating. I can tell you that, you know, Comrade Leah, when we're in Witbank, one of the campaign was to open up employment for women in the mining industry. There was none. At that time, women were banned from working in the mine. Today, 53,000 of mine workers are women. It's a slow percentage, but it's progress that we quantify on an ongoing basis. The industry is committed to increase that number. First of all, that is one in terms of women being in the industry. And I can tell you that many of them are not making tea. Many of them are actually engineers, geologists, others are managers at various levels of the mining industry. That is empowerment of women. Now, in terms of businesses, we're making a lot of progress in the collieries. We're making a lot of progress in the collieries, followed by manganese and I don't know in the Northern Cape. And the reason for that is that those sectors of minerals are easy to operate. They don't lose a huge capital outlay. But gold mining is still very slow because it's deep, difficult, and dangerous. Now, you know, one of the issues that the ANC must debate openly, you know, Anglo, because there's this threat to coal, that coal is dirty, climate change, and I want you to notice this. Anglo has been systematically pulling out of the coal mining. They handed over Eskom supply in Colares, and it was bought by a company called Seriti. Many people get angry when you talk of Seriti, that you empower the same person. What people don't understand is that Seriti is a combination of 4 companies who are wanting for those colonies. And when they discovered that they are fighting each other, they came together and formed a company called Seriti. There are 4 companies. It's not a Maiteke property. Maiteke is Mama Anam Khokung, it's Tebe, it's all of them 25%. They have now extended their control to cover South 32, which agitated many people in the country that you are giving the same one. And there was a term that was mentioned that is concentration. I asked a question, not to protect them, but to understand that at one time in the ANC, we had a discussion of establishing a mining champion, a black company with a mining champion. And that debate went on and on and on. When there's a big black company that is emerging, we call it concentration, because black companies must be 20 million companies. When they are big, it's a concentration. When it is white companies, it is a good company. I don't subscribe to that. I think we need more of big black companies that are there. That company supplies 33% of its coal, and is followed by Exaro, which is 30% owned by blacks. And that progress is continuing. And if you go to the coal fields, you can meet a number of smaller operators who run operations. One of them got the current out of the BRP process, and those the side of, and we must have big companies that are black owned, that are African, but not that I don't have it now. And therefore, if you listen, Leah, when I say it's 4 companies that own Seriti, you'll see that one of those companies owned by a woman, Dr. Anam Khokung, is a woman. So women are present in the industry. They are making the impact. You can go to manganese, you'll find them. You can go anywhere, you'll find them. But one of the things that I think we should look into is to avoid this notion of black empowerment being gifts. Black empowerment means we roll out our sleeves, we dead our hands, we're in the industry, we know how it operates, and we understand it. And when we develop properties, you can make contributions. You are not relating to companies through dividends. Because if you does relate through dividends, you have no clue what the industry is. I don't know the person who asked this question. When did he last visit a mining hostel? The mining hostel. When I was working in the Free State a month ago, I went to Cyprus, which is Massimo, and went to an old hostel of Massimo. What shocked me was that all that complex block of a hostel is now family units. Marriage Parade is family unit. And many of these hostels have committed to family units. So the theory of hostels that were housing us when we're in the mines, 14 in a room, 24 in a room, is no longer a reality. At best, there are 2 in a room and so forth. But I think the ANC must send a team to go and look into those hostels and check what conditions are. Taxi is managed in the Department of Transport, and there were regulations regarding that. Transportation of iron ore and manganese. Transportation of mining commodities. I don't think it should be iron ore and manganese only, it should be commodities. Because if you go to the coal transport, the trucking business is predominantly African. Iron ore and manganese is mainly by train from the Northern Cape to Saldanha. To Saldanha. It's one high train speed and so forth. Now, when you go to transformation of the mining industry, I always tell this story, comrade program director, that Afrikaners never produced a mining CO in 40 years of government. When we took over in 1994, there was not a single Afrikaner CO in mining. Today, there are few of them, but there are many black CEOs who are there. When you tell our people that they are black CEOs, they say, they are symbolic. They don't know. It means we don't appreciate progress. Now, the blasting certificate that the question was based on, the blasting certificate was not open for Africans until we went on strike in 1987. Outcome of the 21 days of the 1987 strike was giving a blasting certificate to black people. In 1979, a blasting certificate was given to a colored man in Oak Cape Copper, and main workers organized a national strike, and that is not treated. When we went on strike for 21 days in 1987, one of the outcomes was a blasting certificate. Today, 74% of blasting certificate owners are African. So people must do those studies and begin to analyze them and understand them. That's why we have a lot of black mine managers. We have a lot of, we're having a number of CEOs. I can give you a list of them. Farmland and deposits. If you own farmland, that's your farm. But what is below the surface of the soil belongs to the state. So even if you discover coal or discover gold in your farm, it's not your coal, it's not your gold, it is the gold of the state. That is again another outcome of the struggle. When we went, we developed the MPRDA in 2004. We reverted the ownership of minerals below the surface of the soil to the state. That's why when you want to mine, you apply to the state for a license. When you get that license, you pay royalties to the state and you meet all the requirements of the mining tract. That's it. So the land question, I'm leaving that to Comrade Togo. Purification of mine acid water is quite a vexing question. We're grappling with it. We think that if we can get technology to clean mine acid water, it will go a long way in reducing the mining problem in South Africa. And the last question was, South Africans must have mining rights. There are hundreds of South Africans who have mining rights. So I don't understand the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There is, well, I think some of the comments and questions that are all, coming up in the chat group on Facebook, you have answered. But I think for completeness, one would read those and you have to make a call, Chair, if you really want to make any further comment to these questions that are raised. For example, there is Bitsoko Eugene Kashu, who says that my concern is, this is now on Facebook, by the way. Bitsoko says, my concern is how the application process at DMR is so difficult. I don't see our people being given an opportunity to enter into mining sector. Young people must be given that opportunity as well. Then Trina Matlachana, really a clarification seeking question, saying, can the notion of exploration, says, can the exploration part as lifeblood be explained in simple terms that can be understood by everybody? I'm not sure whether the question is whether exploration itself should be explained or what, but that's how the question reads. Emmanuel Tsepo Licholo asked a few questions here. That I want to summarize. The one question is, why did the minister withdraw the case related to the mining charter? Yes, basically, why was the question about the mining charter withdrawn? And then the second question being, how come does minister extend the license of mining even when organized labor has disputed the matter? Why can't government come and hear what's the problem between organized labor and company? Now, in the chat group, Comrade Daki says that there are serious challenges, especially in the Northwest and elsewhere, to fund greenfield initiatives. Is there a clear strategy now to ensure such funding for the recovery of mining and sustained contribution to transformation in the industry post-COVID? Comrade Joe Mavuso sent me a note as well privately. Can the minister clarify the situation? Well, he says his question relates to the Lily mine in Mpumalanga. Can the minister clarify the situation there pertaining the bodies underground and the halting of mining exacerbating unemployment? Now, Sibongile Kele kindly give an indication of available state land available for mining by emerging miners. Comrade Hope, I think in the main also just making a comment there. We resolve on radical socio-economic transformation. This nebulous concept called RET is that ideologically wrong and should be corrected. We cannot transform economic relations without transforming political, social, and cultural relations. Comrade Stanley Obakeng Sidiko, I'm not sure if you made a comment earlier as well, Comrade Stanley. I think I heard a comment from you, but let me take this one as well. Is this not the time for mining companies that have been operating to start rehabilitating the land? It is now normal that mining companies do get what they want and run away with our land not being rehabilitated. Then from Delani Kanyile, we are faced with climate change. What measures have we put in place to respond to green mining, especially post-COVID-19? This, in my view, is a very serious challenge. Peli, Comrade Pelisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, comrades, and good afternoon, National Chair and comrades in the group. I think my questions really are going to be... Hello, Committee, National Chair. No, my questions are really going to be microeconomic questions, Chair. I think there's just two. I think firstly, you've kind of like painted out the picture around the vulnerability of the global economy. Now, I'm thinking that, and I just want to stick to the steel industry. Steel industry is linked to several sectors in the economy, which is the construction sector, dental sector, medical sector, etc., right? And even other consumption goods. But currently, we've protected ArcelorMittal.
The steel industry.
Yes, the steel industry, yes. Yes, Chair. Okay, so I'm saying the steel industry is linked to several. Can you hear me, Chair? Am I audible?
Can you hear Pelisa? Chairman, can you hear Comrade Pelisa?
Okay, let me proceed anyway. Let's just hope that Comrade National Chair will be able to hear me. So I'm saying the steel industry is linked to multiple sectors in the economy, right? Which is construction industry, dental sector, medical sector, and even other consumption-related sectors. And we have protected ArcelorMittal, but one of the key issues currently is the fact that downstream industries that are linked to the industry, to the ArcelorMittal, are actually struggling. And what is the plan from the mining sector, I mean from the department, to revive that sector? Because it's very critical. And what makes it even more critical is the fact that now that we've seen post-COVID, I think every economy, both at a national level as well, I think at a regional level, there's going to be a focus to revive from the bottom, not from the top down, because you're not going to be able to achieve a lot. And I think this is one sector that has a lot of multiplier effects in the economy. So I would really want to hear the chair. And that's why I said my question is really going to be a microeconomic question, because intervention at a micro level are actually going to be quite important. I think the second question I want to ask JP, which is the last one, is the fact that I think the discussion on beneficiation is really exhausted discussion. And I think mining towns are really going to pay a heavy price for a number of things. Municipalities are going to start losing revenue because they rely on the property taxes, but as well as it would mean that all the multiplier effects that have been benefited throughout. I mean, there's one critical sector that is linked as well to the mining sector, which is the automobile industry. And the point I want to make, maybe here, it's not a question, it's a comment, it's a contribution, Chair, is that I think, is there a consideration on the table where both mining sector, DTI, and as well as the mining sector, DTI automotive sector needs to better coordinate to actually support industries that are struggling locally. Let me pick one example. Conveyor belts are actually manufactured from platinum, and it's a sector that has been struggling in the last decade in South Africa. From a economic coordination perspective, I think there's an opportunity that needs to be considered. And again, you'd use the COVID and the fact that the economy has completely shrunk to actually prop up that sector, because anyway, the demand for cars is never going to be stopped, but it's an opportunity for us to really invest both in terms of the capital, but as well as have a very clear strategic economic thinking around how do we want to position that sector so that all the engineers that are likely to have been lost in that sector can go back and start working. And in particularly, because there's a component that is highly technological in the sector, but as well as labor intensive. And there's an opportunity to attract young people to work in the sector, and they could produce other things, even in addition to the conveyor belts. Perhaps that's a contribution instead of a question, but I had the question for the first question. Thank you, JB.
JP.
Hello.
JP.
Undvile, National Chair.
So, sorry, comrades, I didn't unmute myself. Apologies there. Comrade Mandla Mandwara. Mandla Madwara, you are unmuted now. Now you're muted again. Unmuted.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Thanks, Comrade JP. I would like to join Comrade Phelz on that question, and specifically talk about the catalytic converter industry that also consumes platinum, and therefore the relationship between platinum belt mining industry and the auto industries is quite important. But what is the challenge now, Comrade Chair, Comrade Gwede, is that the incentives given to the catalytic converter industry, which is quite large in the Eastern Cape, by the way. I think there are about 10 of those companies, and 95% of the cats are actually exported. But now the pricing is a challenge, and as such, it needs special attention to keep the catalytic converter industry competitive. And of course, the disadvantage is the geography or the geographical position of this industry based in South Africa and in the coast in relation to Europe. And as such, we might have a problem of staying competitive. And if not, then this industry will die, because in the Nelson Mandela area at the moment, it employs direct jobs of about 5,000. So again, I agree with Phelz that the mining, the DDI, auto sector and its first tier have to have a deliberate conversation to save also this industry. Even if you look at the hybrid in terms of the electrical stroke fuel car, you'll still need the catalytic converter. And lastly, JP, the ferromanganese smelter that was muted by Daphne Nkosi, again, a woman in the form of Kalahati. I know that they are locked up in a battle with IDC. We don't know when that will be sorted out, but the envisaged benefit was going to be the Hotazel-Ngquga railway line dedicated to that ferromanganese. Surely that case, without being seen to be interfering, it needs your close attention. The sooner it gets resolved, the better that project actually will go ahead. You know, again, it's important that that ferromanganese gets down here and smelted and produce ingots for export. Thank you, Comrade JP.
Sure, Comrade Mandla. Comrade Nobon. Comrade Nobon, I'm trying to unmute you. You need to press the unmute button, please.
All
Yes.
right. Yeah, my question relates really to the new mining charter regulations requiring mining companies to consult directly with communities for SLP projects. The challenge that is being experienced there, municipalities, they see it as a duplication of their IDP processes and making it difficult for mining companies to go into the communities to consult. Can the chairperson assist in that regard? Because every other, municipality that mining companies go into, there is that tension that no, you can't do it. We've done it through the IDP process. Therefore, you are duplicating the process. I mean, one municipality has even gone to an extent of indicating that no, man, we have consulted, went to DMRE, consult with them and tell them that this process is a duplication. So now we, as mining companies, we don't know really what to do and how to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Comrades, I think we have about 7 hands. I want to see if we can take all the hands. I'm really going to appeal that when you make your input or you pose your question, please try to be brief and not even go beyond the 1.5 minute mark. Musawenkosi Buthelezi, Comrade Musawenkosi.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks to the Minister for a nice presentation. I think mine basically relates to as a geoscientist by profession in the sector. I found that it's very much difficult for young junior professionals who want to engage in a much more business sense in the sector, particularly in the coal sector, to find some space to enter the mining environment. For example, you find that the process for application of your licensing, from your prospecting to your mining rights, takes a long process and so much bureaucracy. I don't know if there's a way that we can try and make it much more easier and much more friendly for junior guys to enter the market. And the other one speaks in terms of the current existing mining big giants. How do they come into a play where they can develop sort of like structures that are sort of in construction that look like triple PPEs that speak in your private public partnership based in empowerment of junior mining companies, particularly the young junior guys who've got passion and driving in playing a meaningful role in the sector itself. Thanks.
Thank you. I've been getting some private messages from Russell Baloyi saying he's battling to raise his hand. So Russell, we'll give the floor to you now. Russell Baloyi. Comrade Russell. Comrade Russell, after 10 messages later, now you don't unmute. All right, let me go back to my speaking list then. Boneni.
Yeah, yes, Program Chair.
Yes, Leader, please proceed.
Yes, thank you very much. And good day to Comrade National Chair and the rest of the comrades that are dialogue. I am Boneni Pegiswayo. I'm the secretary for the Progressive Professionals Forum in eThekwini region and KZN. I have only one question and two comments, Comrade Program Director. Since you indicated that this is a dialogue and we can also express views with regard to the mining sector specifically. And I think one must actually appreciate the inputs that Comrade National Chairperson Gwede has made and the admission that he did with regard to them sitting, leaders sitting in the Luthuli House and getting reports from those deployed in various sectors of the economy, and that things are actually moving. And when you find yourself having to move from Luthuli House to government, you then realize, or you got confronted with the reality of the situation, as he has already indicated. And I think it makes sense, therefore, that at times leaders sitting in these buildings, Luthuli House and so on, and even in the provinces, should actually take advantage of invitation to visit some of the areas where our leaders are deployed so that they can actually assess what is going on. The second comment, Program Director, is regard to the social labor plan as it relates to mining towns or mining houses that would normally be built to accommodate miners in that particular area. The only problem that I have in the development of a mining town is that what then happens when that mine collapses or it ceases to operate, as Gwede has already indicated that most of the mines don't have their lifespan. We have seen mining towns that have already dejected or rejected in the greater part of KwaZulu-Natal, for instance, where there was life before and there is nothing happening now. And maybe it would be very interesting to know what from the ANC side, is there a resolution that talks about the revival or the resuscitation of the already ghost town mining towns? Then the last question, Comrade Program Director, relates to the Mangaung and also the Polokwane conferences, resolution around labor brokers. And very little that I've picked up from the Nazareth conference with regard to the same question. But we know for a fact that COSATU as well as the party were very vociferous about the issue of labor brokers. I just want to check from the national chairperson as to how far the ANC is with regard to what was presented and debated in various conferences around the issue of either doing away with labor brokers or doing something that will not be seen to be labor brokering, casualization of workers, and also, because there was also a thinking that why ANC is not keen to do away with labor brokers is because some leaders of the ANC were also owners of these labor agencies. And therefore, for them, it will not occur well if they were to do away with labor brokers. So that's my contribution, Program Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you, Comrade Mboneni. We're going to just take one more question, ask Comrade Gwede to comment, and then we do the last round. Comrades, with the determination that come 2 p.m. we should be finished. So Comrade Briggs Simpuwe Ngolombani. Comrade Briggs, you are next.
Samona, all protocol observed. Usimpiwe lo Briggs. So in fact, and the question ukuthi minings epinoni.
Comrade Briggs, please proceed.
You can hear me now.
Yeah, it's a bit soft, but just
Yeah,
I'm
try.
saying that we have mines in Pinoni. Okay, I'm saying that there are mines in Pinoni, of which they are mined illegally by foreign nationals. I don't want to sound xenophobic, but every day they are mined by illegal miners. So how is the department, what is the plan for those mines from the department side? Because we can secure those mines to create job opportunities for young people who wants to work in the mining industry. Then number two, as young and to know how can we benefit from the mining industry? Where do we have like that and be called where we will be engaged about mining so that we can have an idea what's happening in the mining industry, because most of the people, they are clueless what's happening in the mining industry, especially young people. And number three, makufika kule nto skill transfer, as young people go into a skill transfer, like big companies, Mike Tech, how do they do skill transfer so that young people abahleli malokishini bazo at least bazothola skill transfer so that they can pursue their careers with mining industry. Thanks.
Thank you, leader. National chairperson.
Yeah, you put a long list of questions from the electronic questions to you. Exploration, simple. It's about quantifying and determining the quality of deposit of a mineral you are looking for. We don't make money by exploration, but to create value for people who will come and mine. That's why if you look into the mining charter, you hear that we have removed the need to make and compulsory during exploration. We made it compulsory at the point of beginning production, because we don't want big companies to have a scarecrow that you want us to empower, therefore we can't explore. We want exploration to be accelerated. Therefore, exploration is looking for a mineral in simple terms. Once you discover the mineral, then you get a mining license to mine. And many say it's a difficult process, you can't enter there. But it takes two routes. It will give you an exploration permit if you want it, and you do exploration. And once you verify that there's a mineral, we give you a mining license. I don't know how simple it can be for anybody, whether young or old, because you must quantify the minerals, and then you go and do mining. Withdrawal of the case. There were two cases running parallel dealing with one issue called once empowered, always empowered. We looked into progress we made in both cases. We withdrew one where we were actually on the back foot and retained the other case where we made advances, where the Mineral Council was forced to consult with various role players in the sector. That case is still on. So then we withdraw the case on mining charter. We withdraw one, which was at appeal level, and retain the one that we have made better inroads in the court case. Extending a license when labor is objected. But labor are employees of a mining company. If they object to a mining license, they will have to have a case leg to stand on. It's not a question, it's not a class issue that I apply for a mining license and a union come and object. It's not the issue. The issue is we extend the license because there's an application to extend the license. Labor are employees of that mining company, and they must find a different way of fighting their own battles in the industry, not mining licenses, because they're not a role player in the mining industry, in the licensing of the mine. Greenfield funding. Greenfield funding is in many ways You apply for straight mining, or you put the money together and get into the industry. Mining companies rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is ongoing, and we do it on an ongoing basis. It's slow, and we can accept that, but it is ongoing, it is happening. Lily Mine, you know, the most unfortunate part about the Lily Mine case is that it is made a political ball by everybody who want to have an issue for elections, go to Lily Mine. Lily Mine is quite a complex issue. One, we must accept that Lily Mine was a private mining company that operated there. It was not a state mining company, it's a private company. And that box sunk in there with two bodies, and people are still there. Now, our argument, yesterday we briefing the portfolio committee, and our chief inspector of mines briefed them in details that the issue there is we must find a way of accessing that from a different angle. That's why we think that sinking a decline shaft is the solution to getting to that box. All the other issues, the noise that is made that it is that can be taken out, is just political gain. The reality is that we must have an incline shaft, and the best bet would be to get owners, new owners who can want to mine that mine. That would make the work easier. Climate change and green mining. You know, I'm in energy. That is where the debate about climate change is raging. I always told people that the debate on climate change is more helpful when it is constructive. When it is polemical, it doesn't make sense because it forces us to discuss closing coal mines and go to get energy from wind and solar. And we've argued successfully and internationally that position is prevailing, that we must have a systematic transition from high carbon emissions to low carbon emissions. And we must have access to technologies and all sorts. A pendulum moving from one extreme to the other extreme. It doesn't work in that way. Let me leave those. Let me come to the steel industry, Phelz. Phelz, you talk about many things that you raised here. I would suggest that the next session must be with the comrade Ibrahim Patel. We talk about steel industry, we talk about the industry there, we talk about beneficiation, corporate supported starting sectors in the manufacturing industry. I think Comrade Ibrahim Patel will be more empowered to deal with those questions. Catalytic in conveyor industry in the Eastern Cape. No, don't make it a regional issue. Because if you make it a regional issue, you take away objectivity. It becomes subjective. It means you must pump money into it for the sake of that region if it doesn't make sense. So I would advise our comrade not to make it a regional issue. It's not a regional issue. It's an economic issue, and we must deal with it as an economic issue, and then have the incentive sustained. But I can tell you that sometimes we ask the DTIC, the incentives you seem to be very attractive to auto and clothing. We hardly get any incentives even for small mining companies. So that debate is still on, but we don't suggest that it should be withdrawn. It should continue. It's not a regional matter. And again, you make the ferromanganese smelter a regional issue. It's not a regional issue. If there is a fight with the ITC, you know, one of the things that we don't do, when a company raises money, we don't end at that space. When there are complications in that process, we don't end at that space. We can advise. That's why even when people try to accuse us of having a hand in the fight and so forth. They can't make that case because we keep a healthy distance between contractual agreements between parties. Consulting with communities and municipalities. Now, the contradictions there is when municipalities want to take over social labor plans and want social labor plans to replace government programs, instead of working with mining companies to supplement the work of what they do in terms of the ADP. Mining companies are expected to consult with communities to develop the SLPs. The municipalities are expected to consult for IDPs. If they have different results, development is development. If they complement one another, it's better. We have advised mining companies to work closely with municipalities. The fifth question was, geoscientists find it difficult to enter the industry. I don't know why. Last week I spent a day in Council for Geoscience. I was so excited to see an army of PhDs and masters, young professionals working there. That other week I went to Mintek, which is a research institute. Again, I find an army of PhDs and masters researchers in that. So young geoscientists are in the industry. They are working well. There are many that are doing good work. They are internationally recognized. Now, empowerment of German companies. Again, that's why I'm saying the ANC has a responsibility to go out and check these things. Don't go very far, just go to Witbank. You'll find a number of companies there mining which are owned by young professionals. Young professionals. They've come together, they started with an operation, they are now 2, they are 3, they are growing them. And I enjoy that. I think we can extend it to other sectors of mining. It will be better. Somebody was advising me leaders must visit operations from the Tulias. No, that's not how you understand a sector. When you are in Tulias, you will make a big noise about corruption, about this, about this. When you are in the industry, when you are working there, I'm a new public servant. I come there, then you come face to face with real issues, where you see comrades you respect in there doing things that you didn't anticipate from them. You meet them there. All I'm saying is that it must move out of Rutulias and deployees of the ANC out there must begin to deal with the reality of what is happening there. When mining towns die, when towns close, mining towns, yes, there are many ghost towns. Stillfontein is one such mine. Popperton, where I work, is another such town. You can go to Velcom, it's a side of itself, and that's it. And the reason for that is not what mining is doing now, is the slowness in thinking about alternative economic activity when mining industry is still alive. And we must begin to have that, those decisions are ongoing now, which is a new development. That's what is happening. Labor brokers, in the state, we don't have labor broking as a major issue. In the mining industry, I'm seeing a different dynamic there. I'm seeing some from conducting companies getting employed there is important. Therefore, it is important for us to deal with the real issue. I don't know with these ANC leaders who are owning labor brokers. When that comes to my way, I always see that as blackmail that want to silence us, that we must not talk about this thing and trying to put fire under our feet. You are owing labor brokers. And I said, who is this guy who owns labor brokers? I have not seen this. And therefore, the issue of labor brokers is an issue that is very hot with the labor movement. Mines in Benoni are mined by illegal miners and are also mined by legal miners. There are mining companies operating in the area. Illegal miners are there. And that's why when I talked about it, I said, one of the programs that we're having is training and empowering artisanal and small mining companies. That's it. And therefore, if young people can take an advantage of the training that has started in Namakwaland and in Kimberley, and it is going to go to all the mining areas where we train artisanal miners and small-scale miners to be commercial and run mining companies. That's it.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Comrades, we're going to take the last hand. I saw 5 hands earlier, but I see there's 3 remaining. I'm going to be a little bit more rigid this time, comrades. 2 minutes maximum. When we get to 2 minutes, I will be forced to insist that you do summarize. So please, 2 minutes maximum. Paul Ranamani, Comrade Paul.
Greetings to you, Program Director, and to our National Chair and fellow comrades. I've got 3 questions to ask. The first question, I'm a member of the ANC in Ward 94 in Johannesburg and an emerging miner. The first question is in relation to the document that has been prepared by the junior and emerging miners addressed to the Office of the National Chair and to the National Treasury around the tax incentives for prospective operations to promote the mining industry. Now, the question that I want to the National Chair to assist us is, how does the African National Congress position itself in this process to ensure that it grows the economy and create jobs similar to what the Australians and the Canadians have done in relation to the stock exchanges, allowing exploration companies to float their shares on those exchanges? There's the first question. The second question I would like to ask the National Chair to respond to is, how do we as the ANC strengthen capacity in the SOE, specifically the AFMC and CEF and CSIR and TIA to a less extent, to ensure that it's almost similar to what the People's Republic of China is doing in relation to their SOEs, particularly strengthening them to ensure that it meets its developmental mandate for growing the mining sector. And it's not only around governance, but it's also about capacity around participating at the Richards Bay Coal Terminal as well, so that it has a slot there, and it's not only that quattro allocation that is given to the BE companies, but also it participates actively there. And number 3, the third question I'd like to ask the National Chair to respond to is, how does the Minister intend to position Black-owned junior miners in the upcoming IPP window? The Minister has announced has gazetted the ministerial determination on the 11,000 megawatts of power. And now, as we know, companies like BP have now pronounced that they are going to become vertically integrated energy companies. And I think the trend is going to follow as we progress. Now, in all fairness,
the feel already over 2 minutes, so please.
Okay. Thank you. I think, but the gist of the message is there. Thank you.
Lemako times 2, Comrade Lemako.
Thank you, Comrade. And Chairperson of African National Congress, the presentation that you just attended to this forum. I think what we must do, let me just tell that I'm from Mfuzanyani region in Free State, the Sabin region. I mean, what 15 Maudal branch. What is my put? I'm the lens of our temple of leadership. Is that after in this presentation, that what we do as the learners or as the school to make sure that we empower the AC branches to be able to play a role in terms of monitoring and evaluating the policies in the mining issue. So we invest more in the branches that they know what the role in terms of having the research playing side oversight role the police are implementing. That when we go to the NGs forums, we know that as branches, we can just say in the areas where we are, we have these mines and all things. We are clear at ANC that what policy that must be implemented to defeat our people in terms of freedom charter, so that at the end of the day, we, through political education, we are able easily to the people about happenings of this press that we are making. If we don't do it, it's very difficult to convince people that yes, indeed, ANC is making progress. Because if you check in this class, after this information is only that being eye-opened that this is the progress that the ANC is. So the focus must be on the branches that become political, creative, innovative to make sure that we empower our structure, your branches, your regions, and PCs to make sure that we talk one way when we talk these meaning policies as the, because if we don't get and capacitate branches to champion the implementation of the resolutions conferences, we're in danger. It will be only elections that we need to argue with some Mickey Mouse political parties that the progress that we made. So let's make sure to invest more on branch so that we can progress. It's not easy, but through the school, let's start that process, because this is just a day consultation, we leave it. But let's be creative enough to make sure that we implement in the branches. Thank you very much, JP and Chairperson, all the comrades.
Thank you. Mangaliso Kis, Comrade Mangaliso.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Chair. National Chair, I think the last time that you were in the Postmasburg Katu area, we had a quite productive round of discussions, and we are looking forward to you coming back to come and take some of those discussions forward. We have now for some time been talking about the movement of goods from port to port. As we know that the rail economy is structured to work for the big mining companies at this point in time, to the exclusion of the medium-sized and smaller operations. There is a definite role that the DMR, the Northern Cape Provincial Government, and Transnet in particular should play there. The trend at the moment is that mining industry, transportation infrastructure and operational costs are becoming increasingly vital to the viability of resource projects. And we would want a definite kind of an intervention there, particularly from Transnet, which is the biggest beneficiary. We've got some proposals that we have made in the very discussions that I talked about at the beginning. Massive raw products are transported from various mining ports to the port of our country. A huge number of international maritime companies eke massive profits, and almost all of these are not empowered, and yet they transport our raw products. We need a definite intervention, because as products move from the port to the port, that additional value that can be eked by South African companies is not actually looked at properly. So we need a strategy to say, how are we going to have a beneficiary intervention in terms of the maritime mining companies? As we have said, there is huge value. All of these mining companies have got international trading companies where the spot price of iron ore and manganese catch high prices. What is our involvement at that level? Are there any regulation imperatives that must be met, or is it accepted that we are only to benefit from mining of the raw material? So we are talking about the entire value chain from pit to port, from port to the international destination of manganese and iron ore in our province. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mangalisha. There were two other hands, comrades, but they are gone now. I'm not sure whether they got disconnected or what the problem is. But Comrade Gwede, National Chair, maybe you can comment on those and give some closing remarks. I am aware that there's all kinds of other comments in the chat group, comrades. I don't think it's possible to attend to any of those. But if there's anyone in particular you may want to focus on, Comrade Chair, you are really welcome. And maybe you can respond to those and then also just give your closing remarks, please.
No. Let me start with the comment by the comment from the Eastern Cape, who was almost blackmailing me that retreating, trying to hide my identity with the Eastern Cape. All I'm saying, when you raise economic issues, let's not regionalize them. Because when you regionalize them, you sharpen contradiction around a very important issue. Therefore, there is no retreating from the Eastern Cape. I can't watch that. I'm from Kala. You see the city at the foot of the dragon's neck. I think we must disabuse ourselves of that one because it cannot be true. If it was true, Comrade Chair, I wouldn't be insisting to have the LNG complex to be built in Kucha. Then I would be retreating from my identity. I'm a South African citizen. I had home in 4 provinces, so I can't watch that for myself. On the question of tax incentives, it's one of the debates that is ongoing between myself and Comrade EP, that EP like tax tools to address economic questions. I wish it will benefit the school if you can invite him one day. You want export tax for this, export tax for that, and tax incentive for that. The reality of the matter is that tax tools are almost blunt tools, but if you set up tax incentives to promote mining, I would be excited about that. But what I don't know whether it will work perfectly. Building capacity in SOEs to meet developmental mandate, I agree with that. Position to junior miners in IPPs, you know, one of the things that we should do, I think AMACOM must pool the resources and come together. When we issue a request for proposal for something, African companies must come to the fore. My experience, I'm saying this here so that you can come and see me if I'm talking quagwash, is that we issue a request for information, they sit back, you issue ministerial mandates to go ahead, you issue requests for proposals, they don't come. Once you close the request for proposal, they come to you and say, what can you do for Black companies to be in that space? But there are no proposals from Black companies in the space when you advertised a request for proposal. I want us to correct that weakness. It's a serious weakness because it makes Black companies and African companies in particular as if they are marginalized, but they're not in the space. If you must actually create an allocation to them, you can do that when they are there. If they're not applying, they sit back, you can't really assist them. They must be in the space. The empowering of ANC branches to play a role in mining, I agree with that. I agree with that. The comrade from Postmaster is making an important because I do go to mining areas, sit with comrades. Let me give you my experiences. When we started in the Northern Cape there, we actually invited CEOs of companies who operate there, bring small companies under one roof, they discussed, and we made an arrangement for ongoing engagement. Tensions are low there now. There is progress that is being made. It may not be fast enough. It may not be fast enough, but there is progress. But when you go to other areas, you try to facilitate a similar arrangement. Our comrades spoil that arrangement and also collapse it, and you go home. What do you do when comrades collapse it? You go home. The Northern Cape is fast becoming the mining headquarters of South Africa. Come let's talk about manganese and iron ore. If you listen to my presentation, I was saying a big chunk of rare earth elements are in the Northern Cape. They have not explored yet, and we're going to exploit. Namibia is active at that other side. We're going to move in there and do exploration that area. I agree with them in the Northern Cape that there must be processing facilities in the Northern Cape. They must not just mine, pit to port and take their raw materials out. I agree with that. But we need a serious discussion there, both with the Northern Cape government and various departments at national level. So my last point is, one of the things I do regularly, program director, is that when comrades invite us to their area to have discussion on mining, one of the things to do is to go. And you'll find that we'll come there with a sizable DMRE team to listen to issues and process issues. It has actually helped us address a number of issues in a number of areas. And I encourage you to invite us to come to your area and we have a discussion on the issue. That's it. I'm quite ready to come and be part of finding solutions. But I know I can't find a solution on my own. I can only find a solution with all of you. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Yes. Thank you very for really giving us 2 hours of your time today. The presentation that was made and also responding to all the part of, for me, what's clear, information and knowledge is held, and many of them who wants to understand more what the details to be really coming from a point of misunderstanding.
Oh, yeah, glad.
No, comrades, thank you very much. I think
Brian?
KP is on.
Yeah, thank you for I just got cut. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Thank you, comrades. Yes, Enkosi Mqwathi.
Enkosi. Live.
Yes.
Molo Brian.
Mqwathi.
Kunjani mfondini?
Hayi
Andisakwazi.
No, sikuZoom, sihlala sithulile nje kuZoom.
Andisakwazi mfondini. Andisakwazi.
No, I'm around. I'm
Okay.
around, Mqwathi. Enkosi.